dear God. Oh dear God. Nelson, I consulted with Hebrew scholars, and they said one of the meanings of Israel is let God prevail. BS. Nobody knows the meaning of Israel. So if those Hebrew scholars told that to Nelson, they lied.
In life of Jacob, the grandson of Abraham. At the place Jacob named Peniel, which means.
And now he thinks he's a scholar of the Bible now, about the gathering, about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Dear God. Oh, dear God. Let me go over for you what Israel really means from Paleo-Hebrew. It first occurs in Genesis 32:28, as he's just quoted. 32:28. Let God prevail. Dear God.
They stoned the prophets and were not willing to let God prevail in their
No. 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 No.
As reported by Isaiah
28.
For a small moment have I forsaken thee, Israel.
But as a prince thou hast power with God and with men. That's their attempt, the biblical author's attempt, to define Israel. As a prince thou hast power with God. The prince of God is what they're trying to do there. It's the Sar, as in Sarai, means a prince with the feminine ending for princess. Dear God. Alright, let's get the Westminster Leningrad Codex, Blue Letter Bible. Are you kidding me? You just got punked by your own Hebrew scholars from BYU. Nelson just got punked by his own Hebrew scholars at BYU. Dear God. All right. Yod, Shin, Resh, and then El for God. So it's two words. The Yod is the Paleo-Hebrew letter shaped like a Z. Zeus. I've already discussed how Zeus and Yah are the same exact deity, though they have different stories because of the different cultures they're from. The character in Paleo-Hebrew, and Paleo-Greek for that matter, is one and the same. It has to do with the creation glyph, the Heliopolis creation glyph, with the upper line referring to heaven, the lower line referring to earth, the middle line referring to Shu, which is the air holding up the heavens. In the creation story in Genesis chapter 1, and the waters separated and the dry land appeared, that separation was the air that came from the Egyptian Heliopolis creation glyph. And when you anthropomorphize it, it's Father Shu separating his daughter Nut from his son Geb. They had sex, incest. And Adam, the T and the D are phonetically the same, and may be a partial reason why the biblical author said Adam was the son of Shu rather than the father of Shu. And could also be another reason why Brigham Young thought Adam is our Heavenly Father, but he was twisted. And so we have a determinative, is what the yod is in Paleo-Hebrew. The first letter of a 3-letter word is a determinative of a 2-letter word. And so Paleo-Hebrew is not Semitic. It is not a 3-letter combination vocabulary. It is 2 letters with a prefixed determinative. There are others that are used as suffix determinatives. This is not the case in this example. The shin, or S, is the water symbol. The R, resh, is the flag symbol, not the head. Remember, it's not Semitic. It's a flag representing God. It's the God of the water. Who's the God of the water? None. Egyptian. Think Egyptian. This is from Egyptian. You have to think in terms of Egyptian. Language of the Egyptians here. Learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. And so you have the creation already as the determinative. And God of the water. None. And so Israel, as the house of Israel, talks about the human family that comes from the waters. And so when you get to the flood story, which is the Ogdod creation glyph of the Egyptians, you have the story of a family. Shut up. You've got nothing value to say anymore. And so what you have in the flood story is you have Noah and his 3 sons, all of whom have a wife, thus 8 for an Ogdod. And what happens is a flood occurs, and they are on their boat. That boat is representative of the Ark of the Covenant, which is also the land that emerges from the waters on the day of creation, as the ark lands on the top of a mountain when the waters are separated and the dry land appears. The same process, just told in a different manner. In the Heliopolis creation story, again, you have the dry land appearing and a phoenix bird that lights up the sky. It's often called a Bennu bird. And so the Ben stone, which is the obelisk, is referred to. And it's technically the capstone sometimes, but yeah, it's erect for that purpose, as it is the mound of creation. It emerges from the waters. This is the symbolism for the concept of the religious part of the gathering of Israel. He is aware, apparently, thanks to the biblical Hebrew scholars, of the scattering and gathering of Israel, but they all tie in together in Egyptian. They're just told in different ways. And so the dry land represents Horus, the son of Osiris, son Amun, in Joseph's usage, but also in Egyptian usage. And so the rising sun, the morning sun, and he is the one who is to gather the house of Israel, to gather the body of Osiris, as Isis did. And so the sacrament in the Mormon Church, where we break the bread in remembrance of the broken body of Osiris, as we, as members of the church who have been baptized into the church, gather at church to partake of the sacrament of the broken bread, as we gather it into ourselves, as we ourselves are gathered together as a congregation. This is where church got started. This is where the Last Supper with the bread and water got started, bread and wine. And it's red wine, in case you were wondering, but it doesn't matter. It can be water as well for the Nile River, which is also in the likeness of the creation story, because there's inundation periods as the flooding of the Nile River occurs, and then the waters recede and the dry land emerges out of the Nile waters. It's that same exact pattern. And so one simple glyph in Egyptian, as I just described to you, can be understood and interpreted and translated in many different levels. And this is what Egyptologists are not telling you, because they don't know. They only know how to translate the text thanks to the Rosetta Stone, the language of the Egyptians, the learning of the Greeks. Greek language is alphabetical, and so they're imposing the 26 letters onto the Egyptian hieroglyphs, which are over 1,000, and more if you include the petroglyph hieroglyphs, which they don't. Egyptologists do not include the petroglyphs from the hieroglyphic petroglyphs characters in their alphabet and grammar sign list. And so this is what the flag represents. It represents God, but it represents the process of becoming God, of rising through the waters. That's the whole temple ritual sacrifice, or not sacrifice necessarily, the whole temple rituals. There is sacrifices that are done before the God of the Holy of Holies, as you are given a portion back to partake of. But the washing and anointings, and the burial, and the funerary, and the mummification, all part and parcel of the religion, but they all have meaning and symbolism, all related to creation. And so what you have here is the rising of God from the waters at creation. House of Israel. Taurus, technically. Just as Amun is short for the Melchizedek priesthood. You missed that video? Videos? And so, dear God, he's supposed to be the prophet of God. He's supposed to be a translator. And I went to Hebrew scholars, and they told me all about what I should already know, because I have the Urim and Thummim. I'm a seer. I know it all. I'm a translator. Travis is wrong. Fake news. It's a hoax. It's a deep state plot to overthrow my presidency. Dear God, who are you going to listen to? Seriously? This knucklehead who thinks he's now learned something and knows it all? Or me, who just gave you Paleo-Hebrew, as I am the source for all things Paleo-Hebrew, because nobody else has figured it out. They all believe William Foxwell Albright. It's false claim that Proto-Sinaitic is original Paleo-Hebrew. God. So don't be fooled by these guys. They're supposed to be seers and translators, and yet they're just deceivers, liars. He himself said he had to go to people who new translation. Church doesn't even care about translation. It's supposed to be the priesthood key that he has, and he just admitted he doesn't have it. What's going on here? Where are you? There you are. So, it's not me, guys. I'm telling you the truth. He's the one who exposed himself.